The toy store clerk saw everyone ignore the Vampire King's lonely son until she fixed his broken teddy bear. The child's scream shattered every window in the toy store simultaneously, and in the crystalline rain of falling glass, Maya watched the small boy's eyes turn from midnight blue to burning crimson as shadows erupted from his tiny fists like living smoke, wrapping around the throat of the man who had just ripped the teddy bear from his trembling hands. Wait, before the next revelation happens, if this mystery has already captivated you, let us know where you're following this story from. To make sure you don't miss any unexpected alliances or awakened powers, subscribe and join our circle. The game is about to change. Now, back to the scene. Maya didn't think. She vaulted over the counter, her worn sneakers crunching on glass, and threw herself between the choking man and the child whose power was about to commit murder. The shadows hit her like frozen fire, wrapping around her ribs, squeezing the air from her lungs. But she didn't look at the darkness consuming her. She looked at the boy. "Hey," she gasped, her voice strangled but steady. "Hey, sweetheart, I can fix him. I can fix your bear." The crimson eyes flickered. The shadows loosened just enough for Maya to drag in a ragged breath. "I'm really good at fixing things," she continued, forcing a smile even as black spots danced in her vision. "That's my job here. See?" She gestured weakly toward her name tag, though the shadows made it impossible to read. "Maya, Toy Repair Specialist. I fix broken toys every single day." The man behind her, Mr. Hendricks, the store manager, scrambled backward the moment the shadows released him, his face purple, his eyes wild with terror. He didn't stop to help Maya. He ran, shoving through the front door so hard it cracked against the wall. The boy's power receded like a tide, pulling back from the shore, the shadows dissolving into mist, and then nothing. He stood there in the center of the destroyed store, surrounded by glittering glass, clutching the torn teddy bear to his chest. He couldn't have been more than 6 years old. His clothes were expensive, a tailored black coat that looked like it belonged in a Victorian portrait, polished shoes that had never seen a playground. But his face was the face of every lonely child Maya had ever seen. "You can fix him?" The boy's voice was small, achingly small, nothing like the power that had just nearly killed a man. Maya dropped to her knees, ignoring the glass biting through her jeans. "I can absolutely fix him. May I see?" The boy hesitated, then slowly extended the bear. It was old, probably older than Maya herself, made of worn velvet with button eyes. One arm had been torn completely off, the stuffing spilling out like white clouds. The damage was recent, fresh, from when Hendricks had yanked it away. "He's been with me since I was born," the boy whispered. "My mother made him, before she—" He didn't finish, but Maya understood. She looked at the bear, then at the child, and felt something crack open in her chest. She'd worked at Timeless Treasures Toy Emporium for 3 years, ever since she'd aged out of the foster system with nothing but a high school diploma and a talent for fixing broken things. She'd sewn countless teddy bears back together, but she'd never seen anyone look at a stuffed animal with such desperate, absolute need. "What's your name?" Maya asked gently. "Sebastian." He paused, then added with the careful pronunciation of a child reciting a title he'd been taught, "Sebastian Blackthorne, son of—" "Just Sebastian is perfect," Maya interrupted, sensing he was about to reveal something that would change everything. "And this handsome bear, does he have a name?" "Midnight." "Midnight?" Maya smiled, cradling the damaged toy carefully. "That's a strong name. Okay, Sebastian, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to take Midnight to my workshop. It's right in the back of the store, and I'm going to fix him properly. It's going to take me about an hour, Maybe a little more, because I need to do it right. And while I work, you're going to sit on that stool by my workshop door and keep me company. Does that sound okay?" Sebastian nodded, but his eyes had gone wary. "You won't leave? You won't disappear like the others?" The others. Maya felt her stomach clench at the weight of abandonment in those 3 words. "I promise I won't leave," she said firmly. "I'll be right there where you can see me the whole time." She stood, carefully, and felt the boy's small hand slip into hers. His palm was cold, far colder than any child's hand should be, and she felt the truth of what he was settle over her like a shroud. But she didn't pull away. She led him through the wreckage of the store, past toppled shelves and scattered toys, past the shattered windows now open to the autumn evening, to the back room that served as her repair workshop. The space was small but organized, filled with spools of thread in every color, boxes of button eyes, bags of stuffing, and half-repaired toys waiting for her attention. She settled Sebastian on a tall stool just outside the doorway, positioned so he could watch her work, then moved to her bench. "So," Maya said conversationally as she threaded her finest needle, "do you want to tell me what happened, or would you rather we just focus on fixing midnight?" Sebastian was quiet for a long moment. Then, "The man, your manager, he said I couldn't touch anything. He said," the boy's voice dropped to a whisper, "he said monsters weren't allowed in his store." Maya's hands stilled. She looked up at Sebastian, at his pale face and 2 old eyes, and felt rage kindle in her chest. Not at the child, never at the child. "Mr. Hendricks," she said carefully, "is an idiot. And also, as of about 5 minutes ago, probably unemployed, because I'm pretty sure he abandoned his post during a crisis, and that's against about 17 different company policies." A ghost of a smile touched Sebastian's lips. Maya began working on Midnight's torn arm, her stitches small and precise. "Want to know a secret?" Sebastian leaned forward. "Everyone in this world is a little bit broken," Maya said. "Every single person. We're all walking around with torn seams and missing pieces. The only difference between monsters and heroes is that heroes admit they're broken and try to fix what they can. Monsters pretend they're perfect and break other people to feel whole." "My father says vampires are superior to humans," Sebastian said quietly. "He says we're stronger, faster, immortal. He says humans are weak. Vampires." So there it was, the truth named aloud. Maya kept her hands steady, her stitches even. "Is that what you think?" she asked. Sebastian looked down at his small, pale hands. I think humans die, and that's sad. But I think vampires can live forever and still be lonely. I don't know which is worse." Maya's throat tightened. She focused on reattaching Midnight's arm, pushing the needle through the dense velvet with careful precision. Outside, she could hear sirens in the distance. Someone had called the police. Or maybe worse, maybe someone had called the Vampire King himself. "How did you end up in my store, Sebastian?" "I ran away." His voice was barely audible. "There was a gathering at the castle, all the noble vampires showing off their children. Everyone was perfect, beautiful, and powerful, and perfectly trained. And he gestured at himself helplessly. "I'm small. I can't control my powers. I cry when I'm supposed to be fierce. My father, he tried to hide it, but I could see how embarrassed he was. So when no one was looking, I slipped out. I just wanted to go somewhere no one knew me, somewhere I could be normal for an hour." "And you chose a toy store." Midnight's arm was already tearing. "I thought maybe—" He trailed off, looking embarrassed. "You thought maybe someone here could fix him," Maya finished gently. "That was smart thinking, Sebastian." She worked in silence for a few minutes, stitching the arm back on with a reinforced seam that would hold for decades. Then she began the delicate work of repairing the torn seam on Midnight's side, pushing the stuffing back in, closing the wound. "I had a stuffed rabbit when I was little," Maya said. "Her name was Luna. I got her from a donation bin at the foster home where I lived. She was already old and ratty, but she was mine. The only thing that was mine." Sebastian watched her intently. "One of the other kids ripped her head off during a fight," Maya continued. "I cried for 3 days straight. I thought she was gone forever. But then one of the social workers, this woman named Janet who smelled like cinnamon, she sat me down and taught me how to sew. She helped me put Luna back together. And you know what? Luna was stronger afterward. The seam where we reattached her head was the strongest part of her." "What happened to Luna?" Maya smiled, though it was edged with old sadness. "I still have her. She's on my bed at home. 22 years old, patched and repatched, but still here." "22 years isn't very long," Sebastian said. And there was no cruelty in it, just the honest observation of someone who measured time in centuries instead of decades. "No," Maya agreed, "it isn't. But it's what I have, and I choose to believe it matters." She finished the last stitch on Midnight's side and held the bear up to examine her work. The repairs were invisible unless you knew where to look. She'd even found matching black thread for the seams. "One more thing," Maya said. She reached for a small jar on her shelf, filled with dried lavender she'd been saving. "Midnight's been through trauma today." Sometimes, after trauma, it helps to have something soothing inside you. She carefully opened a small seam on Midnight's back, one she could easily close again, and tucked several sprigs of lavender into the stuffing. The scent filled her small workshop, purple and peaceful. "Lavender for calm," she explained, stitching the seam closed. "And also a little bit of magic. Not vampire magic or witch magic, human magic. The magic of caring enough to do something right." She handed Midnight back to Sebastian. The boy took the bear with trembling hands, clutching him to his chest. He buried his face in Midnight's velvet fur, and Maya saw his small shoulders shake with silent sobs. She wanted to reach out, to comfort him, but she sensed he needed this moment of release more than he needed consolation. When Sebastian finally looked up, his eyes were still blue, no crimson, no shadows, just a child's eyes, wet with tears. "Thank you," he whispered. "You're welcome." The moment shattered as the front door of the shop exploded inward. Not opened, exploded. The remaining glass in the windows burst outward in a glittering cloud, and a figure stepped through the doorway like he was stepping through a portal between worlds. He was tall, well over 6 feet, and he moved with the liquid grace of something that had never been human. His hair was black as a raven's wing, pulled back from a face that could have been carved from marble by an artist who understood that beauty should be terrifying. He wore a suit that probably cost more than Maya made in a year, but there was blood on his cuffs, fresh blood. His eyes found Sebastian immediately, and Maya saw relief flash across his features before it was replaced by cold fury. Sebastian. The boy's name was not a question. It was a command, a condemnation, and a prayer all at once. Sebastian went rigid, clutching Midnight tighter. "Father." So this was him, the Vampire King. Lord Raven Blackthorn, ruler of the Eastern Territories, master of 300 years of undead politics, and the single most dangerous creature Maya had ever seen. And Maya was standing between him and his son. She should have been terrified. She was terrified. But fear had never stopped her from doing what needed to be done. Maya stood, placing herself firmly between Raven and Sebastian. She was absurdly aware of how she must look, 5'4" in ripped jeans and a Toy Store uniform shirt, her brown hair falling out of its ponytail, her hands still marked with spots of thread dye, facing down an immortal vampire king. "Your Majesty," she said, because she wasn't stupid enough to be disrespectful, but her voice was steady. "Your son is safe. As you can see, he's fine." Raven's dark eyes moved to her, really seeing her for the first time, and Maya felt the weight of his attention like a physical force. This was a being who had watched empires rise and fall, who had ended lives with a gesture, and he was looking at her like she was an insect that had had the audacity to speak. "Move," Raven said softly. "I don't think I will," Maya replied. And somewhere in her mind, a voice that sounded like her old social worker Janet was saying, "What are you doing, girl? Move!" But she didn't move, because Sebastian's hand had fisted in the back of her shirt, and she could feel him shaking. Raven took a step forward, and the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Maya's breath came out in white clouds. "You are protecting my son from me?" The Vampire King's voice held genuine curiosity, as if he'd encountered something so unexpected he didn't quite know how to categorize it. "I'm protecting your son from being grabbed and dragged away before he's ready," Maya corrected. "There's a difference." "You dare?" "I dare," Maya interrupted, which was probably the stupidest thing she'd ever done in a life full of stupid choices. "Because I just spent the last hour with Sebastian while I fixed his teddy bear, and I know 2 things for certain. 1, he loves you so much he ran away because he was afraid of disappointing you. And 2, you love him so much you're barely holding yourself together right now." Raven went very, very still. "So, here's what's going to happen," Maya continued, her heart hammering so hard she was sure the vampire could hear it. "You're going to take 3 deep breaths, or whatever vampires do to calm down, and then you're going to come into my workshop and sit down, and we're all going to have a conversation like reasonable people. Or, reasonable people and vampires. Whatever." For a long moment, Maya was certain she was about to die. She could see the power radiating off Raven like heat shimmer, could feel the weight of his fury pressing against her skin. But then, impossibly, the Vampire King's lips twitched. "You have no idea how close you are to death, human." "Probably not," Maya admitted. "But I'm guessing if you were going to kill me, you'd have done it already. Because, honestly, I've been pretty rude, and I'm just a toy store clerk with delusions of therapeutic intervention." "Maya," Sebastian whispered behind her, "it's okay. I'll go." "No!" Maya and Raven said simultaneously. They looked at each other, surprised. Maya took advantage of the moment. "Your Majesty, please, just 5 minutes. What's 5 minutes to someone who's lived 3 centuries? Raven's expression was unreadable. Then, with the stiff grace of someone who was absolutely not used to being asked for patience, he moved past her into the workshop and sat on the single chair, which looked absurdly small beneath his frame. 5 minutes, he said, starting now. Maya turned to Sebastian, who was staring at his father with wide eyes, clearly shocked that the plan had worked. She knelt down so she was at his eye level. "Do you want to tell him, or should I?" "Tell me what?" Raven's voice had gone soft again, which was somehow more terrifying than when he'd been furious. Sebastian clutched Midnight tighter. "I ran away because I'm not good enough," he said in a rush. "All the other vampire children are strong and perfect, and I'm small and weak, and I can't control my powers, and everyone whispers about how the great Raven Blackthorn's son is defective. I heard Lord Marlowe say you should have another heir, someone worthy of the bloodline. And tonight, at the gathering, I saw your face when I spilled blood on my coat, and I knew you were ashamed of me." The silence that followed was absolute. Maya watched Raven's face, and for the first time she saw past the mask of the vampire king to the man, or whatever remained of the man, beneath. She saw devastation. She saw self-loathing. She saw love so profound it had no words. "Sebastian," Raven said, and his voice broke on the name. "Sebastian, look at me." The boy raised his eyes reluctantly. Raven slid off the chair and knelt on the floor of Maya's workshop, bringing himself down to his son's level. And Maya realized she was witnessing something extraordinary. Vampire kings did not kneel, not for anyone. "I was not ashamed of you," Raven said. "I was ashamed of myself, of the world I've brought you into, where 6-year-old children are judged for their worth instead of their hearts, of the gathering tonight where ancient vampires with nothing better to do than critique children stood in judgment of you. You spilled blood on your coat, and I thought," he closed his eyes briefly, "I thought, this is my fault. I've brought my son into this viper's nest of politics and cruelty, and he is too good for it, too pure." "But I'm not strong," Sebastian whispered. "You destroyed this entire toy store when someone hurt Midnight," Raven said. "You nearly killed a full-grown man. Your power is vast, Sebastian." "It's just wild, untrained, because you are 6 years old. And you know what? I'm glad it's wild. I'm glad you haven't learned to turn your heart cold and your power cruel. Every ancient vampire in our territory has forgotten what it means to feel things deeply. You haven't. That's not weakness. That's the only strength that matters." Sebastian was crying again, but this time he moved forward, and Raven caught him, wrapping his arms around his son with the careful desperation of someone holding something infinitely precious. Maya felt her own eyes burning. She turned away, giving them privacy, and busied herself organizing thread spools that didn't need organizing. "I'm sorry I ran away," Sebastian said, his voice muffled against his father's shoulder. "I'm sorry I made you feel like you needed to," Raven replied. They stayed like that for a long time, and Maya kept her back turned, blinking hard against the tears that kept threatening to fall. Finally, Raven spoke again. "Sebastian, would you wait by the door for a moment? I need to speak with this brave, foolish human who fixed your bear." Sebastian pulled back, wiping his eyes, and nodded. He clutched Midnight close and moved to the workshop doorway, giving them space. Raven stood, and Maya forced herself to turn and meet his eyes. "You should be dead," the Vampire King said conversationally. "I could have killed you 17 times during this conversation, and no law in any territory would have questioned it. You interfered with a vampire lord and his heir. You spoke to me without deference. You gave me orders." "I know," Maya said quietly, "but I couldn't let you scare him, not when he just started to feel safe." Raven studied her for a long moment. "Who are you, Maya of the toy store?" "Nobody," Maya said, "literally nobody. Foster kid, high school diploma, 3 years of fixing broken toys. That's my entire resume." "No," Raven said. "You're someone who saw a child in distress and threw herself between him and danger without hesitation. You're someone who knew I was a vampire king and still told me to sit down and calm down. You're someone who taught my son that being broken is not the same as being worthless." He paused. "You're someone remarkable, and you don't even know it." Maya felt her face heat. "I just did what anyone would do." "No," Raven said, "you didn't. Everyone else in this store saw Sebastian's power and ran. Your manager tried to hurt him. You're the only one who saw a scared child and chose compassion over fear." He reached into his coat and pulled out a card, black, with silver writing that seemed to shimmer in the dim light of the workshop. "This is my card," Raven said. "It has a phone number that reaches me directly. No secretaries, no intermediaries, just me." Maya took the card hesitantly. It was heavy, made of some kind of metal that warmed under her fingers. "Why are you giving me this?" "Because Sebastian needs you," Raven said simply. "He needs someone in his life who sees him as a child, not as an heir or a weakness or a political problem. Someone who will fix his bear when it breaks and tell him stories about being human. Someone who treats him like he matters, not because of his bloodline, but because he's a small boy who needs kindness." "I'm not a nanny," Maya said. "I'm not a governess or a tutor or whatever you—" "I'm not asking you to be," Raven interrupted. "I'm asking you to be his friend, to let him visit this toy store sometimes, to fix his toys and talk to him and remind him that the world contains more than vampire politics and ancient cruelty." Maya looked past him to where Sebastian stood in the doorway, hugging Midnight, watching them with hopeful eyes. "And if I say no?" she asked quietly. "Then I'll respect your choice," Raven said. "I will not compel you. I will not threaten you. You've earned the right to refuse freely." Maya thought about her small apartment, her routine life, the safe, predictable pattern of her days. She thought about how one act of kindness had just put her in the orbit of the Vampire King, with all the danger and strangeness that entailed. Then she thought about Sebastian's face when he'd seen Midnight repaired. The pure joy, the relief, the fragile hope that maybe someone cared enough to fix what was broken. "He can visit," Maya heard herself say, "twice a week if you want. I'm usually here Tuesday and Thursday evenings, closing shift. Bring him by. He can help me repair toys, and we can talk, and it'll be normal. As normal as anything involving vampires can be, anyway." Something in Raven's expression softened. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet," Maya said. "I have rules. 1. Sebastian comes here because he wants to, not because you're making him. 2. When he's here, he's just a kid. No talk of politics or bloodlines or anything that makes him feel like he has to perform. 3. If he breaks something accidentally because he's still learning control, you pay for it without complaint. And 4, she hesitated, then pushed forward. 4, you have to come with him sometimes. Not hovering outside the door like a bodyguard. Actually come in and be here, because he doesn't just need a friend, Your Majesty. He needs his father." Raven's eyes widened slightly. Then, to Maya's utter shock, he smiled. It was a real smile, not the cold expression of a king, but the warm expression of a parent who'd just been given unexpected hope. "Your terms are acceptable," he said formally. "Great," Maya said, feeling slightly dazed by the entire conversation. "So, Tuesday, around 7? We'll be here." Raven moved past her to Sebastian, offering his hand. The boy took it, and together they walked toward the destroyed front of the store. At the threshold, Sebastian turned back. "Maya?" "Yes, sweetheart." "Thank you for fixing Midnight," and he smiled shyly. "And for fixing me a little bit, too." Before Maya could respond, they were gone, moving with that supernatural speed that left the air trembling in their wake. Maya stood in her workshop, surrounded by toys waiting to be repaired, holding a Vampire King's card in her hand, and tried to process what had just happened. Her phone buzzed. Text from the owner of Timeless Treasures. "Heard about the incident. Hendrix quit. Store's gonna be closed for repairs for a week. You okay?" Maya looked at the shattered windows, the destroyed shelves, the glass everywhere. "I'm fine," she typed back. "Weird night. I'll explain later." She slipped Raven's card into her pocket and began the process of cleaning up, but her mind was already elsewhere, wondering what she'd just agreed to and whether fixing a small boy's teddy bear was going to change her entire life. The answer, she suspected, was yes. Tuesday evening arrived wrapped in rain and autumn wind. Maya had spent the past 5 days helping repair the toy store, new windows installed, shelves straightened, merchandise reorganized. The insurance company had asked surprisingly few questions, almost as if someone with significant influence had made calls to ensure the claim went through smoothly. She didn't need to guess who. Now it was 6:55 p.m., and Maya stood behind the counter, ostensibly organizing the cash register, but actually watching the door with a nervous flutter in her stomach. What if they didn't come? What if Raven had reconsidered? What if Sebastian had decided he didn't want to spend time with a random human? The door opened. Sebastian came in first, his small hand firmly in his father's larger one. He was dressed more casually today, dark jeans and a sweater instead of the Victorian-style coat, but his eyes were bright with excitement. Midnight was tucked under his arm. "Maya." Sebastian's face lit up. "Hey, Sebastian." Maya came around the counter, smiling.
Right on time. And you brought your dad, which means you're following rule number 4 already. I'm impressed. Raven inclined his head slightly, and Maya noticed he was also dressed less formally. Black jeans, a charcoal sweater, though his bearing still screamed royalty. "We honor our agreements," Raven said dryly. "Good policy for a king," Maya replied. "So, Sebastian, I have a project for us tonight if you're interested. A donation came in yesterday, a whole box of old toys that need repair. Teddy bears, dolls, action figures. The charity that runs the children's hospital wants to give them to kids who are stuck there long term. Want to help me fix them up?" Sebastian's eyes went wide. "Really? I can help." "Absolutely. You're my new assistant. But first, let me show you the basics of toy repair." For the next 2 hours, Maya taught Sebastian how to thread a needle, how to make small, even stitches, how to handle stuffing so it distributed evenly. He was surprisingly deft with his small hands, though he pricked his finger twice and had to pause because even those small injuries bled more than a human child's would. Raven sat in the corner of the workshop on a stool Maya had brought in, watching in silence. He didn't interfere, didn't hover, but his presence was a constant weight in the small space. "So," Maya said as she guided Sebastian through repairing a doll's torn dress, "tell me about your week. How was school? Or do vampires do school?" "Tutors," Sebastian said, concentrating on his stitches. "I have tutors for history and mathematics and combat and politics and etiquette and blood magic theory." He wrinkled his nose. "It's boring." Blood magic theory sounds decidedly not boring, though maybe also not appropriate for a 6-year-old. "I'm 32, Sebastian said, absently, then caught Maya's expression. "Oh, but I age like a human until I'm about 25, so right now I'm 6 in body years. It's confusing." "That's an understatement," Maya muttered. "Okay, so 32-year-old in a 6-year-old body who's bored with tutors. What do you like to do for fun?" Sebastian's hands stilled. "I don't know." Maya looked up at him, then over at Raven, who had gone very still. "You don't know what you like to do for fun?" Maya repeated carefully. "I've never really—" Sebastian trailed off. "There's always lessons, or formal events, or time when I'm supposed to practice controlling my powers. I read sometimes, but only the books my tutors assign. And I play with Midnight, but that's private." Maya felt her chest tighten. She set down her needle and thread. "Sebastian, honey, what you just described? That's not childhood. That's boot camp." Raven shifted in the corner, but didn't speak. "What do human children do?" Sebastian asked, genuine curiosity in his voice. Well, Maya said, thinking back to the glimpses of normal childhood she'd caught through foster home windows in playgrounds she'd passed but never played in. They play. They make up games. They climb trees and scrape their knees and build forts and pretend they're astronauts or dragons or whatever. They get to be messy and loud and ridiculous. They get to discover what makes them happy without someone telling them what they should enjoy. That sounds nice, Sebastian said wistfully. It is nice, Maya said firmly. She made a decision. Okay, new plan. We're going to spend half our time fixing toys, and the other half we're going to play. Actually play. Deal? What kind of playing? Whatever you want. Board games, building blocks, action figures, dress-up, puppet shows. The toy store is basically a giant playground after hours. We'll try different things and see what you like. Sebastian looked at his father uncertainly. Is that allowed? Raven was silent for a long moment. Then he said quietly, Yes, it's allowed. The joy that broke across Sebastian's face was like sunrise. They spent the next hour attempting to play various games. Sebastian was terrible at them. His fine motor control was good for sewing, but uncoordinated for things like stacking blocks or playing board games. He got frustrated easily, his eyes flickering red when a tower fell or a game piece didn't go where he wanted. But Maya was patient. She showed him how to take deep breaths when frustration built, how to laugh at mistakes instead of getting angry, how to try again without judgment. And slowly, gradually, Sebastian began to relax. His laughter, when it came, was startling in its pure delight. He discovered he liked building things, not perfectly, but creatively, in ways that defied the rigid structure he'd been taught. He built a castle that leaned dramatically to one side and declared it more interesting this way. Raven watched it all, and Maya occasionally caught an expression on his face that looked almost like grief. When 8:30 rolled around, Sebastian was yawning despite his protests that he wasn't tired. "Time to go, little one," Raven said, standing and offering his hand. Sebastian took it reluctantly, clutching midnight with his other arm. "Can we come back Thursday?" "If Maya is willing." "Always willing," Maya said, ruffling Sebastian's hair gently. "Thursday, same time. And maybe we'll try finger painting. I have a feeling you'll be very good at finger painting." "What's finger painting?" "Oh, you're in for a treat." As they reached the door, Raven paused. "Thank you," he said to Maya, "for tonight, for—" He gestured helplessly at Sebastian, who was humming happily to midnight. "For giving him this." "He deserves it," Maya said simply. After they left, Maya cleaned up the workshop, but her mind was spinning. She'd seen the way Raven watched Sebastian, the hunger in that gaze, the longing for something he clearly didn't know how to provide. The vampire king could give his son wealth, power, immortality. But he had no idea how to give him a childhood. And Maya, who'd never had much of a childhood herself, was apparently going to figure it out for both of them. The weeks that followed fell into a rhythm. Tuesday and Thursday evenings, Sebastian and Raven would arrive at the toy store precisely at 7. They'd spend the first hour on what Maya called meaningful work, repairing toys for the hospital donations, which gave Sebastian a sense of purpose and contribution. Then they'd spend the second hour playing, exploring different games and activities. Sebastian bloomed under the attention. He discovered he loved storytelling, making up elaborate adventures for the action figures in the store. He liked art projects that let him be messy. He was terrible at games with strict rules, but amazing at imaginative play. And Raven learned to be a father instead of a king. It started small. The third week, Maya convinced him to join a tea party Sebastian had set up with stuffed animals. The vampire king sat on a tiny chair holding a plastic teacup, looking absolutely ridiculous and completely content. By the 5th week, Raven was actively playing with Sebastian, getting down on the floor to build block cities that they'd destroy with toy dinosaurs. He was stiff at first, clearly out of practice with anything resembling play, but Sebastian's laughter drew him out. "You're good at this," Maya observed, watching Raven help Sebastian construct an elaborate train set. "I'm absolutely terrible at this," Raven corrected, but he was smiling. "No, I mean, you're good at letting go of being perfect. That's harder than it sounds." Raven glanced at her, something complex moving through his expression. "I've spent 3 centuries learning to be perfect. It's disconcerting to discover that my son doesn't need perfect. He just needs present." "Most kids are like that," Maya said, softly. "Were you?" The question was unexpected. Maya busied herself organizing colored pencils. "I don't know. I never had anyone present enough to test the theory." She felt Raven's attention on her, that weight of ancient focus. "The foster system?" "Yeah, 10 different homes before I aged out. Some were okay, some were less okay. None of them were permanent." She shrugged, trying to sound casual. "It's fine. I turned out okay." "You turned out extraordinary," Raven said quietly. "But that doesn't mean it was fine." Maya didn't know how to respond to that, so she changed the subject. "Sebastian's control has gotten better. Have you noticed? He hasn't had a power surge in 3 weeks." "I've noticed." Raven watched his son, who was now making train sounds with unself-conscious joy. "He's happier, calmer. The nightmares have stopped." "He was having nightmares?" "Every night," Raven admitted. "Dreams of disappointing me. Dreams of other vampires taking him away because he wasn't strong enough to be my heir. Dreams of his mother dying over and over." His voice dropped. "I didn't know how to help him. I tried everything. Sleep spells, dream catchers, even hiring a vampire therapist. Nothing worked. But since he started coming here," he trailed off. "Since he started coming here, he's had a safe place to just be a kid," Maya finished. "That's all he needed, permission to be imperfect. From you, perhaps, not from me. Then maybe you need to give it to him too." Raven was quiet for a long time. Then, "You understand I can't change the world he lives in. The vampire courts, the politics, the expectations, those are fixed realities. Someday he will have to take his place in that world." "Someday," Maya agreed, "but not today. Today he's 6, or 32 in a 6-year-old body, which is somehow even more reason to let him be young while he can. Today he gets to play with trains and fix teddy bears and discover that he likes painting more than he likes combat lessons." "Maya." Raven's phone buzzed. He pulled it out, glanced at the screen, and his expression hardened. "I need to take this." He stood and moved to the far corner of the workshop, speaking in low, rapid tones in a language Maya didn't recognize. But she didn't need to understand the words to read his body language. Tension in every line, anger carefully controlled. Sebastian noticed too. His train sounds quieted, and he watched his father with worried eyes. "Hey," Maya said softly, drawing the boy's attention back to her. "Whatever that is, it's grown-up stuff, not your problem, okay?" "It's vampire stuff," Sebastian said. "It's always vampire stuff." Before Maya could respond, Raven returned, slipping his phone into his pocket. His face was carefully blank, but Maya could see the storm behind his eyes. "We need to leave," he said to Sebastian. "Now." "But we still have 20 minutes." "Now, Sebastian." The boy's face fell, but he nodded and began gathering his things. Maya stood, concerned. "Is everything all right?" she asked Raven. "There's a situation at court, nothing for you to worry about." His tone was dismissive, the voice of a king, not the voice of the man who'd been playing with his son moments before. Maya bit back her instinct to push. Instead, she knelt down to Sebastian. "Same time Thursday?" "If my father allows it," Sebastian said quietly, and there was resignation in his voice that hurt to hear. They left quickly, and Maya stood in the empty workshop feeling uneasy. Something had shifted, and she didn't know what. Thursday came, but Sebastian and Raven didn't. Maya waited until 8:30, then 9. She tried calling the number on Raven's card, but it went straight to voicemail. She left a message, casual, unconcerned, but her stomach was knotted with worry. Friday morning, she opened the store as usual and tried not to check the door every 5 minutes. Friday evening, as she was closing up, the door opened and Raven walked in, alone. He looked terrible.
Not physically. Vampires didn't show exhaustion the way humans did, but there was something strained in his posture, something almost defeated. "Where's Sebastian?" Maya demanded immediately. "At the castle. He's safe." Raven moved further into the store, and Maya noticed he was favoring his left side slightly. "I came to tell you that our arrangement needs to be postponed." "Postponed?" Maya crossed her arms. "What happened?" "Nothing that concerns you." "With all due respect, Your Majesty, when a 32-year-old child in a 6-year-old body who's finally starting to come out of his shell suddenly can't come to his safe place anymore, that concerns me very much." Raven's jaw tightened. "There's been a challenge to my authority in the Northern Territories. Several elder vampires have questioned my fitness to rule, citing my son's difficulties as evidence of weak bloodlines." He said it flatly, but Maya heard the fury beneath. "I need to manage the situation carefully, which means Sebastian needs to stay at the castle where he's protected, and he needs to behave perfectly, so there's no ammunition for my enemies to use against us." "So you're going to lock him up and make him be perfect again?" Maya said, anger rising in her chest. "You're going to undo weeks of progress because some ancient vampires are playing political games? You don't understand. I understand that you're letting other people's opinions matter more than your son's well-being." Raven moved fast, closing the distance between them in a blink, and suddenly he was there, looming over her, his eyes burning with crimson light. "You understand nothing about the vampiric courts, nothing about the dangers Sebastian faces if I'm perceived as weak. They will take him from me, Maya. They will declare him unfit and have him destroyed or imprisoned or given to another house to be properly trained." "So yes, I am going to keep him safe at the castle, and yes, I am going to require him to meet their standards, because that is how I keep him alive in a world that wants to see him fail." His voice had risen to a near shout by the end, echoing in the empty store. Maya didn't back down. She stepped forward, into his space, and looked up at him with absolute certainty. "Then you've already lost," she said quietly, "because keeping him alive isn't the same as letting him live. And if you turn him into a perfect little vampire prince who never plays or laughs or fixes teddy bears, who's terrified of disappointing you every second of every day, then you might as well let your enemies take him, because you'll have destroyed the best parts of him yourself." Raven stared at her, and for a moment Maya thought she'd gone too far. Then his shoulders sagged, and the king disappeared, leaving only a father who was desperately afraid. "I don't know what else to do," he said, and it sounded like a confession. "Tell me what else I can do, and I'll do it." Maya's anger dissolved into something more complicated. "Let me help." "How? You're human. You have no power in the vampire courts." "No," Maya agreed, "but I know what it's like to be judged by people who've already decided you're worthless. I know what it's like to have to perform perfect just to be treated like you deserve to exist.
And I know that the only way Sebastian survives this, really survives, not just stays alive, is if you fight for his right to be himself, not for his ability to meet their standards. If I fight them directly, they'll use it as proof that I'm compromised, that my judgment is impaired by sentiment. Maya thought for a moment, an idea forming. What if you don't fight them directly? What if you let them see Sebastian, but on your terms? I don't follow. The toy hospital donations, Maya said, quickly, thinking it through as she spoke. We've been fixing toys for sick kids for weeks, right? Sebastian loves it. It makes him happy. What if you arranged a public presentation, Sebastian delivering the toys to the children's hospital, demonstrating his compassion and his skills? Show the vampire courts that he's not weak, he's empathetic, that he has different strengths, ones that will make him a good leader someday. Raven was silent, considering. Vampires value power, Maya continued, but they also value loyalty, don't they? And what builds loyalty better than a leader who cares about his people, even the human people in his territories? The elders would say compassion for humans is a weakness. And you'd say it's a strength, that understanding humans makes you a better ruler over territories that include both vampires and humans. Maya was warming to the idea now. You'd be reframing the narrative. Sebastian isn't weak, he's sophisticated. He's learning diplomacy and compassion. He's preparing to be a better king than any of them. Raven's eyes had lost some of their haunted look. It could work, he said slowly, if I present it correctly. If Sebastian can hold himself together in public. He can, Maya said with confidence she didn't entirely feel. Especially if you're there with him. Especially if he knows you're proud of him. I am proud of him, Raven said fiercely. Then tell him, show him. Stop trying to fix him and start celebrating him. Raven looked at her for a long moment. You should have been a diplomat. I'm a toy store clerk with a high school diploma, Maya reminded him. But I'm a toy store clerk who knows your son, and I know he can do this. Will you help? The question was vulnerable. If we arrange this presentation, will you be there? Sebastian trusts you. If you're there, he'll be braver. Maya should say no, should maintain her boundaries, keep her distance from vampire politics and ancient power struggles, should stay in her lane as a human with no business in their world. Of course, I'll help, she said. The relief on Raven's face was almost painful to witness. They spent the next hour planning. Raven would arrange the presentation for the following Friday evening, enough time to prepare Sebastian and to ensure key members of the vampire court would be in attendance. Maya would spend the week finishing the toy repairs and coaching Sebastian on how to talk about the project. Bring him by tomorrow, Maya said as Raven prepared to leave. Tuesday, as usual. We need to get him back into the routine and we need to practice his presentation. The elders are watching everything I do right now. If I bring Sebastian back here, then they'll see that you're confident enough in your son to let him continue his charitable work. Maya interrupted. They'll see a king who doesn't back down or hide. Raven, you can't lock Sebastian away. It'll make you both look weak. Raven nodded slowly. Tuesday, 7 p.m. We'll be ready. After he left, Maya stood in the silent store and wondered what she'd just agreed to. She was about to put herself in the middle of vampire politics, in front of creatures who could kill her with a thought, to help a 32-year-old child prove his worth to people who'd already decided he was worthless. She should be terrified. She was terrified. But she was also thinking about Sebastian's face when he'd fixed his first teddy bear, about the pure joy when he discovered he liked painting, about the way he'd said Maya fixed Midnight and fixed me a little bit too. So yeah, she was terrified, but she was doing it anyway. Tuesday arrived, and with it came Sebastian and Raven precisely at 7. But the moment they walked through the door, Maya knew something was wrong. Sebastian's eyes were red-rimmed, like he'd been crying. He clutched Midnight but didn't meet Maya's gaze. Raven's expression was grimly set. "Hey, sweetheart," Maya said gently, kneeling down. "Rough day?" Sebastian nodded but didn't speak.
Maya looked up at Raven, who said quietly, "Lord Marlowe came to the castle today. He insisted on evaluating Sebastian's progress. The evaluation was unkind." "What did he say?" Maya's voice had gone flat. "That Sebastian was an embarrassment," Raven replied, and there was murder in his tone. "That spending time in a human toy store playing with dolls was making him soft. That I was failing in my duty to produce a proper heir." Sebastian flinched at the words, shrinking in on himself. Maya felt rage bloom in her chest, hot and fierce. She took a deep breath, pushing it down, focusing on the child in front of her. "Sebastian, look at me." He raised his eyes reluctantly. "Lord Marlowe," Maya said clearly, "is an asshole." Sebastian's eyes widened. Raven made a choking sound that might have been a laugh. "I know I'm probably not supposed to say that about vampire nobility," Maya continued, "but it's true. He's an asshole, and his opinion matters exactly zero in this workshop. In here, you are not an embarrassment. You are a skilled toy repairman, an amazing storyteller, and a kid who has every right to play with whatever makes you happy." "But my father has to go to court Friday," Sebastian whispered. "He has to show them I'm worthy, and I don't know how to be what they want." "Good," Maya said firmly, "because what they want is boring. What they want is another cookie-cutter vampire prince who's all power and no heart. There are probably hundreds of those. But you're unique. And Friday, we're going to show them exactly why that matters." She stood and moved to her workshop, returning with the box of repaired toys they'd been working on for weeks. Dozens of teddy bears, dolls, action figures, all carefully fixed, cleaned, made whole again. "Sebastian, you did this," Maya said, setting the box down in front of him. "You and me together. Do you see this? This is work that matters. These toys are going to children who are scared and sick and lonely in a hospital. And when they hold these bears and dolls, they're going to feel less alone. You did that. Your skill, your care, your heart did that." Sebastian looked at the box, and slowly, some of the devastation in his expression eased. "Lord Marlowe can't do this," Maya continued. "I guarantee you that ancient vampire has never spent an hour of his long life making someone else feel less alone. Power doesn't do that. Compassion does. And you have compassion in spades." "She's right," Raven said quietly, moving to sit beside his son. "Sebastian, I need to tell you something, and I need you to really hear me. I don't want you to be like Lord Marlowe or Lord Cress or any of the other elders. I don't want you to be cold and calculating and cruel. Yes, you need to learn control. Yes, you need to learn how to use your power. But I never want you to lose your heart in the process. Do you understand?" Sebastian nodded, his eyes welling up again. "I'm proud of you," Raven said, and his voice cracked slightly. "I'm proud of the work you've done here. I'm proud that you care about helping others. I'm proud that you're kind. And on Friday, we're going to show the court that kindness is not weakness. It's the rarest form of strength." Sebastian threw himself at his father, and Raven caught him, holding him tight. Maya turned away, giving them privacy, and busied herself setting up their workspace for the evening. They had a presentation to practice. For the next 2 hours, they worked on Sebastian's speech. It needed to be short, confident, and hit the right notes, acknowledging his position while demonstrating his unique qualities.
My name is Sebastian Blackthorn, Sebastian practiced, standing on a small wooden box so he was taller. I am the son of Lord Raven Blackthorn, King of the Eastern Territories, and I am here to deliver toys to the children staying at Mercy Children's Hospital. Good, Maya encouraged. Now the next part, why this matters. For the past 8 weeks, I have been learning the art of toy repair from Master Toymaker Maya Chen. He stumbled over Master Toymaker, which was an embellishment Maya had insisted on. I have fixed 47 toys, and each one will go to a child who needs comfort during their illness. And the closing? Raven prompted. This work has taught me that strength comes in many forms, Sebastian said, gaining confidence. The strength to fight is important, but so is the strength to heal, to mend what is broken, to bring comfort to those who suffer. A good leader needs both. This is the kind of king I want to become. He delivered it perfectly, and Maya felt her chest swell with pride. That's it, she said. That's perfect, Sebastian. You're going to knock their fangs out. Sebastian giggled at the expression, and the sound was worth everything. They practiced 3 more times until Sebastian could deliver the speech smoothly even when distracted. Then Maya declared it was time for their reward, painting. She'd bought finger paints specifically for this, along with large sheets of paper. She laid everything out on the floor of the workshop, and Sebastian dove in with enthusiasm, creating abstract swirls of color that somehow captured more emotion than any realistic painting could. Raven watched from his usual stool, and Maya noticed he was less tense than when they'd arrived. "Thank you," he said quietly to Maya as Sebastian painted. "For this, for all of this." "You don't need to thank me," Maya replied. "I'm just—" "You're saving my son," Raven interrupted. "You're saving us both. Please let me acknowledge that." Maya met his eyes and saw something there that made her breath catch. Gratitude, yes, but also something warmer, something that spoke of connection forged through shared purpose and mutual respect. "Then, you're welcome," she said softly. Sebastian's painting ended up being mostly purple and blue, with streaks of silver that might have been stars or tears or both. He declared it was called Midnight's Dreams and insisted on hanging it in the workshop. As 8:30 approached, Sebastian reluctantly cleaned his paint-covered hands and gathered his things. "Thursday?" he asked, hopefully. "Thursday," Maya confirmed, "and then Friday, we change the game." After they left, Maya stayed in the workshop, looking at Sebastian's painting. It was messy and imperfect and absolutely beautiful, just like the child who'd made it. She pulled out her phone and sent a text to her friend Liz, who worked at Mercy Children's Hospital. "Hey, weird question. If I told you a vampire prince wanted to donate a bunch of repaired toys to the kids on the long-term ward, and he needed to do it in front of vampire nobility as a political statement, would that be weird or would that be amazingly weird?" The response came back almost immediately. "Amazingly weird, but also we never turn down toy donations, so if your vampire prince is serious, tell him to call our volunteer coordinator. Also, vampire prince? Call me." Maya smiled, one step forward. Now she just needed to make sure Friday went perfectly. No pressure. The week crawled by. Maya coordinated with the hospital, arranged for a small receiving ceremony in the main lobby, and confirmed that visiting hours would accommodate the unusual donation time of 7 p.m. on Friday. The hospital was thrilled. Apparently, wealthy donors making public shows of generosity were not uncommon, and vampire nobility wanting to be seen doing charitable work was an unusual twist that the PR department was eager to publicize. Maya didn't mention that the PR part was actually a strategic move in vampire court politics. Some things were better left unsaid. Thursday evening, Sebastian arrived with Raven, and they did a full dress rehearsal. Sebastian wore his formal clothes, the Victorian-style coat and polished shoes, and practiced the speech 3 times while carrying the box of toys. He was nervous, but solid. He didn't stumble over his words, and his voice was clear. "You're ready," Maya told him. "You're absolutely ready." "What if I mess up?" Sebastian asked, the worry clear in his eyes. "Then you'll recover gracefully, because that's what leaders do," Raven said, "and I will be right there beside you, as will Maya. You won't be alone." "The vampire elders will be there," Sebastian said, "watching, judging." "Yes," Raven agreed, "but so will the human children, and their families, and the hospital staff, and all of those people will see you doing something kind and meaningful. That's who really matters, Sebastian, not the elders who've already made up their minds, the people who will see your heart." Sebastian nodded slowly, processing this. They spent the rest of the evening just being together. No practice, no pressure. They played a game of building block cities, painted another picture together, and read stories from a book of fairy tales Maya kept in the workshop. At 8:30, as they prepared to leave, Sebastian hugged Maya tightly. "Thank you for believing in me," he whispered. "Always," Maya whispered back. Friday arrived gray and cold, with rain threatening. Maya closed the toy store early and drove to Mercy Children's Hospital, the carefully packed box of toys in her trunk. Her hands were shaking slightly on the steering wheel. This was it. This was where Sebastian would either prove himself to the vampire court or where everything would fall apart. No pressure, none at all. She arrived at the hospital at 6:30 and met with the volunteer coordinator, a cheerful woman named Susan who was thrilled about the donation and completely oblivious to the supernatural politics at play. "We've set up in the main lobby," Susan said, leading Maya through the hospital corridors. "We'll have about 20 children from the long-term ward come down, along with their families. The local news is even sending a crew. This is such a heartwarming story." News crew. Maya hadn't anticipated that. She wondered if Raven had, and whether it would help or hurt their cause. The lobby had been transformed. A small stage area was set up with chairs for the children, and hospital staff milled about, arranging things. Maya placed the box of toys on a table and did a quick count to calm her nerves. 47 toys, all beautifully repaired. At exactly 7 p.m., the front doors opened and Raven walked in with Sebastian. But they weren't alone. Behind them came a group of vampires, 6 of them, all clearly ancient and powerful. They moved with that liquid grace that marked their kind, dressed in expensive clothing that somehow managed to look both modern and timeless. Their eyes scanned the hospital lobby with the cold assessment of predators in an unfamiliar environment. Maya recognized the type, if not the individuals. These were the elders, the ones who judged Sebastian and found him wanting. One of them, a tall vampire with silver-streaked black hair, met Maya's eyes across the lobby. His expression was disdainful, as if he couldn't believe he was being forced to witness such a mundane human event. That must be Lord Marlowe. Maya lifted her chin and stared back, refusing to be intimidated. She had no power, no immortality, no supernatural abilities. But she had something these ancient vampires didn't. She knew Sebastian. She believed in him, and she'd be damned if she'd let them see her fear. Sebastian spotted Maya and his face lit up, some of his nervousness visibly easing. He made his way over to her, Raven at his side, while the vampire elders hung back, watching. "Hey, sweetheart," Maya said quietly. "You ready for this?" "I think so," Sebastian whispered. "All of them came. Father said they wanted to witness my failure." "Then they're in for a disappointment," Maya said firmly. "You've got this." The hospital coordinator called for everyone to take their seats. The children filed in, some in wheelchairs, some with IV poles, some holding the hands of worried parents. They were all ages, from toddlers to teenagers, all bearing the particular exhaustion that came with long-term illness. Maya's heart clenched at the sight. These were the children Sebastian's work would touch. Raven stepped forward first, his presence commanding the room.
When he spoke, his voice carried effortlessly, pitched to be heard without being loud. "Good evening. I am Lord Raven Blackthorn, and this is my son, Sebastian. We are honored to be here tonight to present a donation to Mercy Children's Hospital." He gestured to Sebastian, who stepped forward, carrying the box of toys. Maya could see his hands shaking slightly, but his voice was steady when he spoke. "My name is Sebastian Blackthorn, son of Lord Raven Blackthorn, King of the Eastern Territories, and I am here to deliver toys to the children staying at Mercy Children's Hospital." Perfect. He was nailing it. For the past 8 weeks, I have been learning the art of toy repair from master toymaker Maya Chen. Sebastian gestured to Maya, who gave a small wave, trying to ignore the fact that vampire elders and news cameras were now focused on her. Together, we have fixed 47 toys. Each one was broken, abandoned, or damaged. Now they are whole again. And each one will go to a child who needs comfort during their illness. Sebastian opened the box and pulled out the first toy, a teddy bear that had been badly ripped when they'd received it. Now it was perfectly repaired, its fur brushed soft, a new ribbon around its neck. "This is Thomas," Sebastian said, holding up the bear. "When he came to us, he had no eyes, and his arm was torn off. Maya taught me how to give him new eyes, and how to stitch his arm back on so it was stronger than before." Now, Thomas is ready for a new child to love him. He handed Thomas to a small girl in the front row, maybe 4 years old, who clutched the bear with immediate devotion.